Hi friends, welcome to the Rising Sun series that we started on eChai TV. So at every time we have very interesting entrepreneur, interesting personality with us, sharing their experiences and their thought process behind the things that they are doing. So today we have Ms. Kiran Sethi with us. She is the founder of Riverside School and one of the amazing project Design for Change. So welcome ma'am with us.
Lovely, thank you so much.
Ma'am, how did you start at Riverside School?
How did I start Riverside School? Okay. I started Riverside School as a response to my son's education.
Okay.
I mean, my son was going to a premier school in Ahmedabad, and his experience that he was having in the school just was such a dismaying experience for me that I said that I can do a better job. I mean, he can't go through life believing, like several things of what you were sharing about how you went through your education. And I couldn't stand by and see my son go through that on a daily basis.
Okay.
And I think that caused me enough sort of worry and dismay and distress, literally distress, that I said I will start my own school.
Okay.
And Riverside actually became an answer to a frustrated mother's response, you know. So it was just something I couldn't have that happen. So eventually I took my son out of the school and then subsequently started.
And what were you doing earlier before starting Riverside School?
Oh, I'm a designer by profession. I graduated from the NID and I had my own design firm. And I've designed several of the restaurants in Ahmedabad, so tomatoes and mirchi masala and all that. So I loved doing what I did because I think the whole idea of design is to provide better experiences for the user.
Yes.
And for me that was an important journey. So I still design, I still design, I still teach. So
then one day you decided that you will set up a school.
It was not one day, it was
So you
longer than that, yeah.
So how much time it took? Like, you know, I really want to set up my own school, and you really actually started a school.
You see, when I thought of setting up my own school, I first did a study of what they call excellent institutions in India. Okay. So I traveled. I traveled and I saw several of the schools that had a name for themselves. I mean, you know, why there's a certain particular school that has a name, why is that school considered important? So I did a little bit of study. But the year I took my son out, that year I didn't start my school that year, but I homeschooled him for a while. And then there was another school that was starting in the city. It was started by these young, bright IM graduates who, you know, wanted to make a difference in everything. And I remember putting my son there. Okay. And then I volunteered as a teacher for a year in that space. And eventually they were looking for a principal and they said, okay, why don't you become the principal? So I actually became a principal with absolutely no background in education except for the passion to know that children's education can be different. And so I became a principal there for a couple of years, and then when I left there, then I started my own school. So I had a little bit of a background in what it takes to run a school, and I think that was a fantastic learning ground for me to know that I could just start on my own.
And how did you gather the initial finances to set up the school? This place is awesome. So
well, I started the school in my house.
Okay.
I didn't have any finances to start the school, so I started the school with some 25 children from Aju Baju they came, and I started in my home. So I ran the school in my home for a couple of years, and then...
So you had to take some permissions from the government? Or like,
well, if you're starting a school which is not part of the Gujarat board, all you have to take is a no objection certificate to say that I don't need your finances or your support, and this is a private school. So once you get that, then you can start a school. And then I had my own funds, some amount of my inheritance, etc. And then I started, I built the building, and then, so it's just been slowly, it's been every year at a time. So I was in no hurry. Okay. I wanted to do really good jobs.
So it was started in the year?
2001.
Okay, so it's almost 12 years now.
Yes.
So what is the difference that you started with and you are doing now?
I don't think there's anything in terms of what the focus is, that has not changed. That means a child will be the focus. What has changed? Well, we've grown, we know better now, so we do better.
Yes.
We have went from 26 children. I have now 350 odd some children,
Yes.
and my team has grown. I think today Riverside's impact has grown extensively for the work we've done. So I think that has changed.
And ma'am, today it's a bit of a fashion that you talk about the overall development of the kid. But when you started, probably it wasn't that fashion. There are certain things which you cannot measure. So was it difficult for you to convince parents?
No, because I didn't care what they said.
Okay.
So it didn't matter to me. I had, when I started the school, I had parents who came and said, "Hey, वो मेरा बेटा वो they would come and say मेरा वो neighbor का बेटा वो दूसरे स्कूल में जाता है 12 nursery rhymes आता है
Yes.
मेरे बेटे आपके कोई एक भी nursery rhyme नहीं आता क्या कर रहे हो?" It didn't bother me. I just said that this is the way we'll be doing it, and I said come and see your children after 6 months, and in 6 months they saw the change that had happened. So in a way, the first 7 years of Riverside, I literally put blinkers. I didn't bother.
Okay.
I couldn't care less what anybody thought.
Okay.
And every day I taught. I still teach every single day. And I ran the school, and I trained, and I built. So literally it was just putting what I believed was right. Of course, it was not just I believe it's right, so I'll do it. It was a lot to do with my studies. We, as a team, we learnt lots. As a team, we grew, and we really understood what we were doing. So this was not an experiment. We were not running an experimental school.
Right.
So I think the single point of focus of going back to the child meant we didn't have to be scared or fearful of anybody.
Correct.
It simply became that story.
And ma'am, when you started, like you were so focused, right? Your son, you didn't want your son to study that way. You wanted to win that way. So how did you hire the initial team which believed in the same thing?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because like you were passionate, but you are doing
Yeah,
the same.
I
Probably
think,
for someone else.
well, I think the team, when they come first, I don't think they realize what. Nobody came in saying, "Oh, that's that vision." I think the team has now owned that vision because every day that has been the story. So you'll of course have to ask them why they have stood, because my first team is still with me.
Oh, great.
12 years down, we have still the same great, wonderful team. But I think the first year, I think we just believed we were doing something that was right, and I think that belief is very important.
Right.
And we started seeing it in the children. We started seeing it in what the children were telling us, and our belief grew even more because of that. And then we realized that the children were doing, even they were just so fantastic.
Yes.
And I think when you see the work express itself in the user, and the user is telling you again and again, this is making sense to me, you start getting that confidence from that space.
Yes.
I think that's what happened.
And ma'am, coming back to your initial team, how did you hire them? Like, who are they? Like, they were your friends or through referrals?
My first team is a fantastic story.
This is the most difficult part for everyone. Then how do you get that first couple of guys to work with you?
Well, my very first person that I called up and said, "Would you like to start the school with me?" was a friend of mine who was also with this other school, and we both had left, and we both said, "Okay, we'll start the school together." But look at I'll tell you a very interesting thing that happened. And then I needed to have a teacher, so I used to go and work out in one gym, and there was this lovely young girl who used to work out with me. And I had seen her briefly, and importantly, she could also speak Gujarati very well, and I don't speak Gujarati very well, though I've been here for a long while. So I needed somebody who knew the language. So I asked her, we were in fact tying our shoelaces after the workout, and I said, "What do you do?" She said, "Nothing." I said, "You want to teach?" She said, "Yeah."
Wow.
So she became the first person I had. Then in 2001, January 26th, I was getting ready to show the parents this place. This place was literally like a bhoot bangla pehle. There was no live anything. It was just a khoka. And I put the ad for Riverside on the 18th of Jan. I must have got some 25 phone calls, okay? So 26th of Jan, I was inviting all those parents who had called to say, "Come, I'll show you my school. I have a building. I'm not just telling anything."
Yes.
Because I used to stay at Law Garden. So I was bringing everybody here. I was getting ready to come to the school, and the earthquake hit.
Yes.
26th of Jan. So
Friday.
everything just broke. In fact, from those 26 parents who joined, I think 20 left. In fact, that first girl my friend who was going to start with me, left.
Okay.
So
And what was the
everybody just
reason like for them? Like because the
Bas,
place is not there now?
No, that girl got so, her husband got so upset and so scared. They left and they went off to America.
Oh.
And so that's the reality. The reality is that everything just fell apart. And that's the time when I realized I have to stay and have to still continue the school. So that's what Riverside became. So Riverside is an interesting story. In fact, that first earthquake that happened, maybe that's the reason the ripples of Riverside have gone
Very high.
fire.
Is this the way you wanted to grow, or you had
No,
other plans?
no, not at all.
Because there are a lot of new schools even set up. They become bigger.
Like I said, I couldn't care less. All I know is that I didn't have any plans. I didn't have a 5-year plan. I don't still have a 5-year plan because I think that if you have plans, you spend too much time trying to achieve it. And sometimes you might have done it much earlier, but you say 5 saal mein ye karunga, then you'll wait 5 years to do that. None of that works. For me, it's never been that. I didn't think Riverside would have such an impact. I didn't think I'll start Design for Change. All I knew was that Riverside, the only focus will do, I didn't want to be like the best school in the world. I just wanted to be one of the finest schools for the world.
Yes,
So that's a very
difference.
different focus. So that's all. The focus is every day has been to do that.
And how was the Design for Change started then?
Oh, just again, like I was sitting on my couch, I was speaking to a friend of mine who was starting, are you familiar with Joy of Giving Week?
Yeah,
Venkat, right?
Yeah.
So Venkat had called me up, it was the February of 2009, and he was talking to me about the Joy of Giving Week. And he was saying, I'm going to do this, and celebrities will do this, and CEOs will do that, and rickshawalas will do this. So I said, what about bachas? What will they do?
Yes.
So he said, what? So I said, I'll design a thing where children will look at giving in different ways. He said, chalo karo. Literally. So over the phone call, sitting there, literally I just designed the entire thing over a phone call. Bus then called up all my people, my contacts at, like I said, at Stanford and Harvard and everything. I said, you guys are in? They said, yeah. Plus the Design for Change was created literally overnight, and we rolled it out. The first year we reached 30,000 schools in India.
Okay.
And
what are the kids supposed to do in this program?
the children use a simple design process: feel, imagine, do, share. And they look at situations and opportunities in their environment, and their immediate thing, what they feel strongly about. Then they imagine a way to make it better. Then they go and do the act of change, and they share the story with us. And that's what we call the I can. Once children go through feel, imagine, do, share, they say I can do it. And that became a very powerful story. For the first time, we had children all over the world talking about what bothers them, rather than an adult going and tell them, oh, global warming bahut problem hai, chalo usko karo.
Yes.
Here children were telling us what bothered them. So it could we realized that children talked a lot about bullying. In fact, one of the biggest things that are coming out from Design for Change are children are scared.
Okay.
So they are changing that.
And what happens
Once we get the stories back, we make it visible. We share it to the world. And we've got some of the finest partners. So this year, 2 years ago, Amar Chitra Katha became our partner.
Oh, wow.
So every year we publish comic books and stories of change. So children can actually see that they're the superheroes. So we have comic books that get launched, we have storybooks that get done. We are now in the process of coming up with the first design thinking textbook for children. So it's pretty phenomenal.
And ma'am, over the period of 12 years, coming back to those other people that you are so sure about what you really wanted to do, but somebody else would come up with this is the way you build your school, or somebody else would have built it bigger. So
like I said, I didn't bother.
Okay. And what was that that made you
busy
decide
just
to stop?
doing whatever. I was so busy. I didn't have the time. And I think probably that was the best thing I did.
Okay.
I didn't get caught up by who thought what.
Yes.
I didn't get caught up by who said anything. I just didn't bother.
And how is the admission process now? Now since Riverside has a name, then it's difficult to get into a good school.
True. Well, we just take 25 children every year, and 2 years ago we started Right to Education Act. So we're very happy with that. So we have a lovely diversity in the school. And yeah, it is going to be difficult, but like I said, luckily now parents have choice. There's so many good schools, right?
Correct.
And I think that's important. And I think schools, because if for instance a school does good work, then in some measure it influences other schools.
Yes.
Right, and they do so. But I think now Ahmedabad, I remember when I started, there were very what we would call alternative schools in education. Now there are lots, and I think Ahmedabad is
catching up with all
good
this.
Place. Yeah, we had always the best higher education. We had the best design school, architecture school, management school. Yes. We had some of the best. We didn't have a great foundation to support that, but I think now, I think parents are spoiled for choice. I think it's great.
Right. And ma'am, you know, like, how was your family treating you, like, when you started with this thing? Because this is something new, like, you know.
Well, I think I have been really, I think the universe has designed everything to ensure that things work. Luckily, my child was in my own school. My son was slightly older, that was fine. And since I started working from home, then finally I shifted here. So like you see, I live on campus. So my school and my home are all one and the same. And I think...
And then this place is an army cantonment, so how did you get that?
No, this is not from the army cantonment. Okay. This is part of a society.
Okay.
Yeah, but the access road is from the army. But like I said, I had probably the best support in terms of my husband allowing me, and not only just allowing, I think it's important for your partner to be able to understand your own passion. See, luckily, I live with a man who's been passionate for 35 years of his life.
Yes.
And I think he truly understands what excellence and that obsession can be. So when you have a partner who understands it, then it's very easy to do that, because my hours have been ridiculous, my timing has been ridiculous. But you need somebody who understands that and supports it and believes that that's the right way to do. We've supported each other in terms of if I've had to travel, he would be home with the kids, or if I have to do that. Then luckily my daughter was in the same school, so I didn't really have to worry. Okay. Her timing was separate, this thing. Right. So she really became my guinea pig to experiment a lot of things. I am blessed to have a strong support system at home in terms of, just food and everything. So I think in some way everything just worked. So I could just go ahead and do this.
So ma'am, like, you now have built something amazing. So how do you get the revenue out of it? From the fees from these kids or sponsorships?
Yeah. Well, no. Riverside doesn't take any donations. We have absolutely no sponsorship or anything. This is the school works completely on the fees that comes in. For Design for Change, we look at a sponsorship model, because that is an open source idea. Design for Change is a completely free initiative, so therefore it needs sponsorship to be able to print the toolkits, because last year we reached 100,000 schools.
It's a huge number.
It's huge, 100,000 schools in India, and so and we had our first Be the Change conference and publishing, etc. So that's it's literally as if it's a completely different idea by itself. It's so big now. But it started here, and so in terms of my time, I spend till 4 o'clock teaching, and then from 4 to 6, 7, 8 will be on Design for Change. So it's literally like two things I have to do. Yeah.
So, ma'am, in both of your key initiatives, that Riverside is something, it came out of frustration for your son. Design for Change came out because one of your friend called up. So which are the things that you really wanted to do?
It didn't come out because my friend. It came out because I realized that design thinking is something that most schools don't do. We don't understand design thinking. And design thinking is something that is hugely important to be able to look at what needs to be changed. Otherwise, we're solving the wrong problems.
Correct.
That's one of
and that creates a bigger problem.
Yeah, and then we say, change doesn't happen. Yeah. So since my children and at school were continually showing me how they use that process to be able to look at change, the same process had to now go outside Riverside.
Yes.
Riverside will always be a small school. I'm not interested in 2 sections, 5 schools of franchise, and completely disinterested in that model. But the impact of Riverside has to go.
Correct.
So one way we did it, the first way we did it was with approach, making our cities child friendly. Again, we made it that an open source free initiative. The next thing we've done is offered Design for Change, design thinking. This is the first time people are talking about design thinking, only because of Design for Change. And now the third thing we're doing is putting Riverside, we've been documenting Riverside right from the beginning. And we've developed very, very strong pedagogical models for most schools to take. So we're making an open source platform, e-platform, where Riverside will become E.
Okay.
So in a way, that's something that you might be interested in. So, so we're saying that anybody around the world should be able to look at good practice and to be able to use it. So this year we're launching what is called the Teacher-Ed platform, which is essentially having material to help other teachers also do the same kind of work. That
So it would have the online content?
Yes.
Anything else about that?
Meaning content not for students, but for teachers. How do I become a better teacher?
Okay. And how do you want to take Riverside ahead now?
I have no idea.
Like,
Seriously.
or
All I know
someday
is
the
that-
next.
No, I think how do I take it ahead will come only with what I do today, every day. And I think for me and my team, I think our constant thing is to looking at how do we do a great job every day.
Okay.
That will take care of tomorrow.
Right. So in the school now we have 1 to 12.
Yeah, we have from pre-kindergarten till 12.
And which are the streams that we have? Like science?
We have science, we have commerce, we have art and design, we have humanities.
Okay. And so, ma'am, coming back to the science, if you are studying science, the parent wants kids to get into a higher, want to go to IIT or get good marks. So how do you balance that kind of requirement from the parents in the way you want to
Well,
do
a couple of ways. One is that some parents have chosen to take a gap year. So they said, okay, because college is about admission.
Yes.
Schools are about learning. So there's a big difference. Once your children come to the higher ed, suddenly the shift from education to admission becomes a big deal, right? It becomes a dialogue. So I know it's an emotional response. So sometimes the board we've taken, the international board, means there are some constraints regarding doing an IIT along with doing the international curriculum, right? Unless you do it simultaneously, which is a big struggle. But we've got some very wise parents who have chosen to help their children take a gap year after the 12th. Study then only for the IIT or whatever they might be, and then take it there.
Okay.
If IIT is your destination, if you want to go there.
Yes.
But otherwise, there are a lot of our children who are looking at all kinds of careers. We've got hospitality, we've got dance, we've got scientific research, we've got robotics, we've got children looking at management, liberal arts. So what's lovely is I think children are finding that they can make their passion into a profession.
Right.
And that's an important story for children to be able to see.
Yes. And what is the typical day for the kids here? Like typically in a school, you have these lectures defined, predefined. So how?
Well, in the younger, which is my till grade 7, it's pretty much slightly more fluid. From grade 8 onwards, because that becomes more subject oriented, because they start taking choices.
Yes.
Then they do have a kind of a timetable which allows them to look at the subject choices they've taken. Alongside, we have time for relationship building. So we have what is called the conglom time, which is around persistence. So every child from the older kid, right from of course younger, but older specifically, they have to do some amount of their time in service. Service is very important.
And a lot of time you read in the newspapers, all these people who are with great connections, political connections, big industrialists, they want their kids to get into the admissions. So you receive such calls or you entertain such things?
I don't entertain, but I do get calls.
So how do you tackle them? Like someone who have a girl.
my typical thing to people who might be in say government or something, I say, आप मेरे को गलत बोलने के लिए कर नहीं आप नहीं बोलोगे. So they know now that influence doesn't really work at Riverside.
So you work with the government departments?
Yeah, but we've had some superb, like last year we worked with the Gujarat government for Design for Change, to take Design for Change to the schools in Gujarat. We had a fantastic partnership.
So you do all these rules?
Yeah, we trained 2,500 teachers
great.
in over 12 districts of Gujarat. It's fantastic, really great.
So even today you don't have to take permission from the government to run bigger courses? Like first you took that no objection certificate.
No, I think again you need to say no objection. You basically are saying that we are not going to be, we need a no objection because we're not taking the Gujarat board. We're looking at alternative boards. So if you're not taking Gujarat board or affiliating yourself to Gujarat board, then you have to take a no objection certificate to say from any other board, whether it's CBSE, ICSE, IGCSE or IB, that I'll be taking any of these boards and that's okay. That's all you need to be able to get your permissions.
And have you found any difference, you being a woman entrepreneur or something like that?
You know, competency is agnostic of gender.
Yes.
It really doesn't matter.
But you face certain problems?
No, I haven't.
The people don't take you that seriously when you go and meet. They now take you seriously once you have delivered something? Or you had any experiences or no?
No, I think the only experiences I've had sometimes is them thinking that I can't run a school because I don't fit the profile of what a principal of a school looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when a parent meets you, probably he'll say like she's not that serious kind of the thing that my kids want to
No,
say.
no, I don't think now. I think in the first couple of years they might have think, but I think once, uh, I think competency and your work finally speaks far louder than anything you can ever say.
Yes.
So I don't have to even bother to sell an idea. If I tell the story of Riverside or tell a story, that's all I need. It's unimportant to me.
And ma'am, what are the moments that you really thought that like you did something amazing in yourself?
I think my kids do amazing stuff every time.
Okay.
So I think it's reflected glory. So when our
For
children do
example?
something, well, anything. I just this morning I was sharing with my team how amazing some of my kids are working with the Center for the Mentally Challenged Children, and they've just been around talking to experts and doctors to say, how do you understand autism? How do you understand cerebral palsy? How do you understand Down syndrome? And these are sixth graders. And today they were sharing with me that, ma'am, this is the kind of thing, and this is what happens when you have this thing, and the doctor said this, and I think we can do this. And I'm looking at them, my God, in grade 6, I don't have a clue what I was doing.
This is brilliant because
This is
most of
just-
the parents, like if I had asked this question, they would have said my son got an award from this place, and this is the thing that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking and I'm hearing, I said, my God, you are amazing. And then and to then give back that respect by the opportunities you design for is what your job becomes.
Really.
That you look at them and say, wow, you deserve everything that I can do. And that's the only thing that you continue to work on. And so I think every day I look at, and I'm surprised by something the children say or do or my team does. It's just pretty amazing.
And ma'am, I first got to know about you from your TEDx talk. So how did that happen? Like, because even if you attend those programs, that's a huge thing, and you go and get a chance to share your story, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I think TED, when it was first time coming to India, this was TED, not the TEDx, right?
Yeah.
So this is the main TED. TED was coming to India in 2009 for the first time, and the lady who was, I think, planning the agenda happened to come to Riverside. She came and she'd heard about approach and the fact that we had done, making cities child friendly. So she just came. She said, I've come because they were looking at venues and looking at where all they might think of hosting the TED. This was, I think, she came in March of 2009.
Okay.
She was just, I think, looking around, and she said, and she kind of met me, and she kind of said, I love what you're doing, so will you talk at TED? So I said, okay. So I had the opportunity, and at the talk, it was in Mysore, at the Infosys campus, and I spoke in November. And I remember when my talk was published on the TED site in Jan of 2010, that's when Design for Change went global, literally.
Yes.
Design for Change till then was in 2009 was in India, and in 2010 it went to 20 countries just because of TED.
That's huge.
That's the power of TED, seriously.
So you prepared for those 80-minute talk, or typically
Mine was a 9-minute talk.
Oh, yours is
Mine was a 9-minute talk. Yeah.
So there are stories that you have to really prepare for that.
And I remember thinking, what story will I say? What will I talk? And I remember, I think my daughter told me, she said, Mama, I said, what is the one thing that I do? She said, Mama, you infect me with your passion. That's how contagious that word got. I got it, yeah.
Yes. And like this is the story now. Like as you said, and you are just following the way things are coming up. You don't have those bigger. So is there something that you have that I really want to do in my life? Something that you really want to do, or everything is just as you? There must be something.
I think no. Frankly, I do feel whether it's my family, my school, we've been very blessed, and I think all I would like to continue to do is to ensure that we don't disrespect this blessedness and this that we've got. That'll be the worst thing.
Yes. And what would be your message to the young people? Now there is a fashion that like earlier people wanted to do MBA. Today everyone is becoming their own boss. So what could be your message to this?
I think I would love for every child to make their passion into their profession and believe that when you do that, the world opens up. Because I think this time, more than my time, I remember when we were graduating from NID, I don't think money was a huge factor. We were not saying, what is our pay packet, what do we get?
Yes.
Somewhere that has become a very strong story for children now.
Yes.
They want to make it very quickly.
Yes.
We don't even want to pause to be able to test it out. So I think the only message is, if whatever is possible will come if you thoda pausable, I keep saying. Thoda pause, you will get what's possible. But I don't think our children are wanting to slow down a little bit. So, and money coming at any cost is what might be the biggest deterrent.
Right.
If you have your passion, money will come.
And ma'am, if you look back your case, what are the things that you thought and that worked? Like, this happened, that's why things happened, or...
Well, look at my own case. I mean, I remember when I was at school, I was a good student, unfortunately. So the general thing was, if you're a good student, you have to be engineering or medical. And I was naturally veering towards medicine. So I joined college in grade 11, science. And somewhere probably I knew that this might not be my own thing, because I loved, I thought I would be a great cardiac surgeon.
Okay.
Right from the beginning I wanted to save lives. So, look at my story. After I'd finished my 11th exams, and I had holidays. So my sister had joined NID. That time NID was very fresh, just about known. So nobody knew there was a design college, right? And so she told me, she said, why don't you try for NID? I said, I want to be a doctor. She said, but try. So I just put in my thing. I said, okay, chalo, I'm anyway doing MBA, I might as well try it out. So there was a big lamba choda admission process. Meaning you have to do one long admission form, and then there's a admission test. I had to go to Madras to give the test. It was like 7-8 papers. And then I was invited for the interview at NID. I remember that day. I can't remember the month or whatever, but I remember I walked into NID and I fell in love with the place. Because I don't think we are aware of what aesthetics does to the mind.
Yes.
It's a fantastic thing. Because most colleges, most schools are such deprived spaces. Okay, they are designed with such a lack of aesthetics. They are so sterile, they are so foreboding in its architecture that we think that's the way it has to be. And inside our minds, we don't realize how it impacts us. The psychological space gets affected by the physical spaces. And I remember when I walked into NID, I said, wow, this is fantastic. And I just finished my 11th. I had not even done, and NID takes you 10 plus 2. You have to have finished 12. And I remember I walked in for my interview, and there were these 7 people sitting there, and said, what do you want to become? I said, I want to be a doctor.
So what are you doing in design?
So what are you doing? So I said, okay, you get me into NID, then I'll see. I must have said some ridiculous stuff.
Design ka doctor.
But I got into NID after my 11th. I didn't even have to do my 12th. Okay. So imagine. So I've not even done my 12th. But I remember feeling this was right. And if more children can find what they feel is right and pursue that, it'd be fantastic. Because I remember when I was taking this call, imagine a parent at that time saying, okay, you don't have to do 12th and you can go to... And a lot of family friends said, Arey, NID? She must have not done very well in school.
Yes.
I mean, that's the general sense.
The third option, science, commerce and this.
Third, I don't think design was in anybody's language at that time. So it was probably a brave decision even from a parent body to say that you should go and pursue this. And then brave to allow your child to do that. It talks of very good parenting, of a parent who says, I trust my child.
Yes.
And they will be fine, and they don't have to do what everybody says. So I think if parents can trust their children more, if parents can find more confidence in their children's passions, I think children will do a lot better.
And most of them get influenced by people surrounding them.
True.
So what should they do
I don't know. I think, like I said, parenting is a very fearful. I think most parents are fearful. Education is fearful. I mean, we keep telling our children 98% is not good enough.
Yes.
Imagine saying that to children, that it is so difficult to get in. My God, it's if 98%, that's the constant communication to our children. I think somewhere we have to learn to be more courageous in our parenting, more braver in the way we look at education. I think that's the only message you can say.
So ma'am, anything you want to share with our, because the kind of people who will see this video are there a lot of young aspiring entrepreneurs who want to do something. Because
Does anybody want to get into education? Please come to Riverside.
and ma'am, the problem then when you talk about you follow your passion, the money part always comes in. Like initially,
But
don't make that
the
money.
fantastic stories are all around us. Every person has followed the passion, has made money. I'll give you an example of Geet, right? When Geet got into billiards, that was a time when nobody had a clue what the game was. There was absolutely no money in the game. To imagine, and he came from a family that was not well-to-do or whatever, right? Look at that scenario. You had a parent who believed, and this was a real middle-class family. My dad-in-law was a part of the air traffic control, so we didn't have the money, right? And here was a little boy who said, I want to do billiards. So not even cricket.
Yes.
Okay. So
they
I mean, think about that,
cricket.
right? And look at what he's done. So I keep saying, you follow your passion, and Geet wrote that fantastic book called Success versus Joy. When you have joy in what you do, you will be successful. It is the common sense of it. And I keep wondering, why are we so scared? Why don't we believe in our passion enough to go out and do that? Anything done with passion means you will struggle less and achieve more. It is common sense.
Correct.
So somewhere we're not trusting that about ourselves and our
Yes,
society.
that is the
That
key
I
point.
think, if we can just trust ourselves a little bit more, and our parents can trust their children a little bit more, I think we'll just have happier people out there, right? And I think we'll just do a better job of it.
So ma'am, thanks a lot for being with